So, hello my friends, part 2 of the lecture on McLuhan, Medium is the Message. So, talked a little bit about the effects of technologies and mediums and their wider context in society, and talked about McLuhan's eras of communication. But let's get a bit more into McLuhan at this point as well, and really what he was talking about in terms of mediums. First of all, we need to think really about what a medium is. Strictly speaking, a medium is a means of conveying ideas or information, a substance through which something is carried or transmitted. For example, a spirit medium like the lady there, or a radio, for example, but anything where a message can travel from one place to another is a medium. And his focus, McLuhan's focus on the medium led him to this statement, which is so important in media theory, about the medium is the message. What does McLuhan actually say about these things? Well, I just kind of I've robbed this right off the internet, right? But if we consider McLuhan's thoughts on printing, printing made literature possible. It did not merely encode literature. That is what I mean when I say that in the not so long run, the medium is the message. Okay, what's McLuhan trying to say here? When we think of literature, it's not just that printing made literature possible physically, it made the very idea of writing works of literature, the novel, the essay, the short story, all those things are made possible by printing. Without the print press, without the ability to print, none of those things would have existed. They didn't exist prior to print. Books prior to print were religious texts largely. So the idea of having a long form story like a novel, that only comes about with the printing press. Printing made the very essence of literature itself possible. It didn't just make it physically possible, it allowed it to happen itself. It wouldn't have occurred otherwise. And that's really the change when he says the medium is the message. The message is the possibility. So how do we get to understanding that in some more depth? Well, firstly, we need to understand some of the other things that McLuhan said. McLuhan argued that machines and mediums are an extension of man. For example, clothes are an extension of the skin. My shoes are an extension of my feet, my glasses are an extension of my eyes, etc., etc. So humans create machinery to automate human activities, and machines amplify or accelerate existing processes, and therefore they have a purpose, a function, and inherent in nature. So the message of any technology is the change of scale that it produces. So the expression "the medium is the message" was coined in Understanding Media, the Extensions of Man in 1964, and although it's frequently quoted, it's very often misunderstood. TV is brainwashing? Possibly. But we need to understand it more fully before we can come to that conclusion. So many people assume that McLuhan was talking strictly of mass media communication. He wasn't. He was talking of all technologies that extend man. And even people also assume that the message referred to the information presented by these media. And that's very, very wrong. And worse yet, casual readers conclude from these two assumptions that McLuhan was arguing that the content presented is less important than the medium that presents it. And that's not what he was arguing either. Couldn't be further from the truth. So what was he arguing? According to McLuhan, a medium is, as I've just said, any extension of ourselves. For example, a tennis racket is a medium for extending my arm to the ball, and language is a medium for extending my thoughts to others. A message, on the other hand, is more than simply information. Ultimately, is a change in human attitude or behavior in response to the medium itself. So if I watch a video about evangelism in Haiti and feel compassion for the loss and decide to support missionary to a third world country like Haiti, then the message of the video is my change in attitude towards and to a decision to support missions in general. It is not just the content of the video itself. So when McLuhan says the medium is the message, he means the way to understand the nature of anything we create, i.e. a medium, and evaluate its effectiveness is by taking note of the changes it brings about, the message. And therefore, you can start to see how important the medium is, the message is, in terms of media studies. We look at particular mediums. We look at television, we look at radio, we look at the internet, we look at the World Wide Web, we look at social networking. And we evaluate their effectiveness by about how it's provoked changes, the message. So when I was talking about, instant messaging in the previous video, instant messaging has provoked massive changes. Therefore, it's an incredibly effective medium. Let's think about this one. PowerPoint. Oh God, PowerPoint. I'm communicating with you through PowerPoint video at the moment. PowerPoint is a medium that you're very familiar with, and believe you me, you're going to be very used to it over the next 3 years, because practically speaking, everything comes through PowerPoint when you're doing a university degree, as it was in school. PowerPoint's a medium. What's the message? Well, for your generation, the message is PowerPoint is education. If you don't have PowerPoints, you're not being taught. Now, I didn't have any PowerPoints when I was doing my education, right? I completed my degree in, 2002. I didn't do my masters in a traditional way. I did them by distance. And then a PhD doesn't really work in in terms of classroom teaching. So all my lectures were delivered by some man or a lady standing in front of people in a room talking. And you sat there and listened, and you wrote notes on what they were saying. And lectures could go on for 2 hours, and you wrote notes for 2 hours, or you fell asleep, one of the two. But very frequently the second one. And if you missed that stuff, it was gone. Because we didn't have a virtual learning environment where you could go and download the video or download the slides or anything like that. The virtual learning environment didn't exist, and certainly the slides didn't exist. When I trained to be a teacher in 2003, 2004, PowerPoint was just starting to be used in the classroom, and I jumped on it pretty quickly because I thought this was a really easy way that I could do something once and then use it over and over again, and it cut down the amount of work that I would have to do. And to an extent, it's true. As a teaching aid, it changes our practices as teachers. We do a PowerPoint. We might, I amend my slides every year now, and I add things and I take things away. And these are actually very different slides than the ones you'd be having if we were doing the class in class, if you like. There'd be more in them. There'd be a lot of interactive stuff in them, which you just can't do with a video. That's why we had the seminars. We do that kind of stuff there. But really, when I think of teaching now, I think, right, I've got to do slides. Slides is education. But for you guys, slides are also your education. You come to a lecture, or don't, right? And you're presented with something on slides. And if that doesn't happen, there's something weird going on. It's uncanny. It's different. It's not right in some ways. And you want to be able to get hold of the slides. You want to be able to download them from your VLE in case you can't be bothered to come. So what's the effect on education? It means you don't really have to be there. I mean, you miss a lot if you're not there, and it's a far less learning experience if you're not there, because you miss all the nuances and the extra things that people talk about in lectures, and the questions that are asked and the explanations that are given. But you could, in theory, get by just with the slides. So that means education is no longer essential to be in the same space as somebody. And when you think of the physical environment of your education, this is kind of weird talking to you guys now, because you're not really yet in the mode where you can be in lecture theatres in university, because we're not allowed in the lecture theatres. But all the classrooms are focused in a particular direction. They ain't focused at me. I'm not the focus. And they're certainly not focused at you. They're focused at the screen that broadcasts the slides. Everything, your focal point of attention is driven towards what's on the screen. So the university itself has taken it upon itself to structure the environment in such a way that PowerPoint becomes central to everything that we do. Wow. So what is the message of PowerPoint? Education is PowerPoint. And that means everything in education is Microsoft. And that means that all teachers and all students have to learn Microsoft. They have to learn how to use PowerPoint. They have to learn how to download PowerPoint. They have to learn how to handle PowerPoint. They have to learn how to be comfortable with it. So being comfortable with Microsoft Office. There's a whole political economy attached to that, right? The effectiveness of the medium is that it's replaced what I consider to be education with something else. And it has made me change as an educator into using this stuff. And it has changed well, it's not even changed you guys, it has socialized you guys into having an education via Microsoft software. The medium is the message. The medium is PowerPoint, the message is, this is now education. That's what McLuhan meant by the medium is the message. So TV may have changed society, but are its effects prescribed by the structure of TV itself? It's a really interesting question. And my answer to that would probably be, yeah. So I got a TV, right? All the furniture in my front room points towards the TV. It freaks me out when people say, we don't have a TV. What does your furniture point towards? What are you doing? You know, freaks. TV structures our living environment. We're focused upon it. You know, even if we don't watch it that much, everything is physically oriented towards this window. Wow. TV goes far beyond just rotting our brains. It also structures our very physical environment. That's the effect of the media. In terms of computerized society, the presence of computers and computation alters life itself. We are subject to big data, the quantified self, metrics and measurement, continual connectivity, mass surveillance. These are all part of the message of having just a smartphone. You know, we're producing data, we're continually being quantified and metricized, we're continually connected, so we can't escape. I can't escape work because people can email me at any point of the day, at any time. I'm always in work. That's the effect. That's the message of the smartphone. So we shape tools, our tools, and then our tools shape us. Wow. Technological determinism, or in terms of how we should discuss these things, or technology and society shape one another. I mean, you need to come down on a position on that, but what I would suggest is the latter. You know, we want to be in a position where we discuss technology in a way where we understand that technology and society shape each other. People's use of technology is not predictable or prescribed, but, you know, changes in people reflect changes in technology and vice versa. But in terms of the medium as the message, the most profound thing that we can understand is that the mediums that we invent, the tools that we invent, then start to shape our practices as human beings and our practices as a society. And if you understand that, then you understand McLuhan and you understand where he was coming from. Okay, we will talk much more about this in the seminar. Thank you very much.